Their job is to provide input on the student's present level performance. It's not just our job to do that, because they have lots of knowledge about their student. To gain knowledge on the student's academic and behavior needs, and ways to increase their academic performance through accommodations and differentiation. Okay? Now, this is a brain game that I'd like for you all to play with your gen ed teachers when you go over this PowerPoint with them. And the question is, do you have any challenges that may impact your daily work, performance, or life activities? Okay, we move on. So, what you have to do, this is just a little activity. You say the color the word is written in, not the word itself.
I have this game at home.
Okay. So an example, the first one is green. So you do the rest.
Red, blue, yellow, white, orange, blue, purple, green.
It's difficult, right?
Is it red, green? Is that orange? I can't tell from here.
Orange.
It's the blue, green, and orange.
Orange.
Okay, yellow,
and black.
Okay, good job, good job. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the next slide. And this is just a discussion. So we want to just discuss how your brain wants to read the actual word. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay? Even when you can make yourself do it correctly, you have to read it much slower than normal. And we know our students with disabilities, they need extra time on their test. They don't read as fast. That's why we use lots of different direct instructional programs to work with them to increase their fluency. And then it's just an example of how difficult it is for our students with learning disabilities to get through the day. Their brain understands what needs to be done, but they have to struggle to actually make it come out right. So we know that not being able to do this activity, we know that not being able to do it, that it doesn't mean that we're not smart. It just means that our brain wants to do something different. Therefore, we have to provide different ways for them to learn. So ways in which we can provide that learning for them is differentiated lessons. Now, differentiation is just a proactive response to a learner's need. We know that we have to differentiate based on readiness. For instance, if we test a student, we identify where they are if you give them a multiplication test. Some kids will master the test day one. Some kids may not master the test. Some kids are right there. What are you going to do for those kids who've already mastered it? What are you going to do different for those who have not? Then we have interests. We base our differentiation on the interest in certain things they're interested in and also their learning styles. Now we come to our, no, that's okay, accommodations. Accommodations may include extended time, separate setting, test administrator reads aloud, marking book, read aloud itself, preferential seating, limited test choices, dictation to a scribe, multiple testing sessions. Now we know that when I think about preferential seating for some students may need to be either closer to the board, some kids may need to be away from the board, or some kids need to be, their back may need to be to the door, and they may not need to be seated where they can look out of a window. So we have to identify what is preferential seating and what does it mean for that child. Okay? Think about read aloud to self. Read aloud to self. Those children are going to be reading aloud to themselves in a one-on-one situation. And we have to let gen ed teachers understand that is this an appropriate accommodation for them? Is this something they're doing already in the gen ed setting? So with all these accommodations, we have to make sure that these children really need it. And if you look in your folder, you'll see that there's a questionnaire. It's a questionnaire that talks about accommodations. And it will say you can sit with a child, and it says when you need extra time or help in class, which of these are most likely to help you? So taking class notes, extra time on assignments, using a word processor. So basically this information can help us gain more knowledge on what is it that that child really needs. Because those children our special ed teacher children are not in the meetings with us when we make those decisions. So having this data with us in an IEP meeting will help inform the decisions that we make. So this is a great tool to use, and the gen ed teacher can use it as well. Okay, here's some curriculum strategies to motivate reluctant and struggling students. So, during discussions, you can discuss and write important ideas on the board. Use different colored dry erase and markers for emphasis. And this is something that I'm sure you all are already doing, and your gen ed teachers, but we can encourage them to do this. Give students a copy of lecture notes or the PowerPoint itself. Okay. Now, students complete different activities based on their learning needs or learning preferences. Even in our classes, our resource classes, we know that some kids are there, they've got